Actress SELA WARD was the guest on Later with Bob Costas on May 5th, 1992. And not surprisingly, she was promoting her role as Teddy in the show Sisters and talks about her journey to stardom with Bob. Can you say television commercial?
Thanks for staying up later from Los Angeles again. We're with SELA WARD, who is in the NBC program seen on Saturday nights called Sisters, and you may also know her movie work, Nothing in Common with Tom Hanks and Jackie Gleason, and Hello Again with Shelley Long, The Man Who Loved Women. She was one of the co-stars along with Burt Reynolds, and Kim Basinger and Mary Lou Henner were in that with her. Let's start with Sisters. This Teddy character you play is complex, if we're to put it in the category of understatement.
Yeah, she is. She's, I could not have asked for a better role to play. She has such a range. She's such a complicated character, you're right. I mean, this woman goes from, she's a recovering alcoholic, starving artist. She goes from shooting up her sister's wedding because she's drunk to, oh God, painting sled on the side of her car. She's completely unpredictable and
given
really fun
to,
character.
let's say, flamboyant behavior. I mean, she doesn't hold much of it in.
No, not concerned about looking good. Not at all. She's really fun.
Is it a fear that this character will go too far and it won't be believable? I mean, after all, the family has to hold together. The mother has to still love her. The sisters have to tolerate her no matter how angry they get at her. And this gal has pulled some wild stunts. She
has. You know, I think that was probably a concern after the first 7 shows that we did, because in those 7 shows she did do all those things with the shotgun and shooting up the wedding and painting sled on her sister's Porsche and on. And then I think they decided, well, you know, we have to do something that makes this character a little more redeeming, where people really love her, but they get a kick out of all the antics that she pulls. So you've had her, within the past year, sort of getting in line and becoming a little bit successful and getting her life together and back on track, which has been really good, you know. And at the same time, they keep all the interesting, fun things that she does, and because she's the one that's the most unpredictable. So you have to have all of that going on, I think, to create conflict.
Most of what I've seen you in, some of it may have a comic tinge to it, but I guess except for Hello Again, none of it was directly a comedy.
Right.
And yet you seem to have a pretty good ability to be a comic actress. There was a bit in Sisters where you were selling stuff door to door, like a second-rate Avon lady.
This is my favorite show. Of all the shows I've done, this is my favorite show. I had the most fun.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning to you.
I love comedy. I really love it. You're right. Most of the parts I've played have really been the straight one.
And of course, there's some comedy within Sisters, if only because the situations become so extreme. I don't know what percentage of our audience has seen it. I'm assuming that many of you have seen it at least a few times. The writing is very good, very sharp. The banter, the dialogue, and even though the situations sometimes seem absurd, they're true. They might be exaggerations, but they're true to the characters as they have been established. And I guess that's why it holds up. Oh,
definitely. Ron Cowan and Dan Littman are the writer, creator, producers of the show. And it's really rare that you have a show where the executive producers also write, and they continue to write to keep the consistency and level of quality up. And they do, and that's one of the reasons I took the show, because it was so unique in terms of the writing and the characters and the fantasies that they do. The flashbacks they have, the memories where our younger selves all of a sudden appear, we interact with them. It was so unique and different. I thought, wow, this is a great show. And the opportunity to do comedy and drama, you know, both, was really great.
You mentioned the flashbacks. The, if not unique, then at least unusual aspect of this is that usually in movie or television flashbacks, the character is viewing something from a distance, or it's a look back at that character in his or her past. Here, as you said, you, in your present adult state, interact with yourself, and the other sisters do as well, interact with themselves at other stages of their life. So you're talking to a 17-year-old Teddy who's on the verge of having an abortion.
Right.
It was kind of a touching scene.
It was, and what Teddy was saying to her younger self really was that I wish I had been there for you, to go through this with you.
Theodora Reed? Well, come on, that's us. Look, don't be stupid. Aren't you coming? Well, aren't you? You're blowing it.
Maybe, but I don't think so. See, I'm not the same person you were.
Well, I am.
I know. I wish I could have been there with you so you didn't have to go through it alone.
The way I look at these flashbacks is that, for me, they're like, you know, all of us have that sort of adolescent or younger childlike voice in the back of our heads, no matter what we're doing, no matter how old we are, I think. And certainly at my age, I'll be standing there going, and I'll hear this little voice, oh no, do you think you can do that? Do you think you can really pull this off? Do you think they're going to buy it?
Now here's a show created by two men, and most of the writers are men, but obviously it's a show about women. Why does it work?
Because I think it deals with universal themes in relationships, and it's sort of strikes a common chord, I think, within all of us, because no matter what your relationships are, whether it be, you know, parent-child, mother-daughter, father-son, sister-brother, or just in terms of friendship, or in a relationship with your spouse or boyfriend, whatever, it's all the same theme. It's all the same. It's just people relating to one another and what comes up for them in those sort of relationship dynamics. And I think that's why it is so successful, and also why you have male writers, and it really doesn't make much difference. There are female writers on the staff, by the way. It's not completely male, but I think that's why it works.
I read where you said you would never play a character less complex than this one. If that's the case, though, you may have to retire, because this character has a few shadings.
Well, she does, doesn't she? What I meant by that really was that in terms of a television series, having a role that I had to play day in and day out for, hopefully, knock on wood, a long time in this case, I wanted a character where it is challenging, very demanding, and that keeps me growing, you know. And Teddy is that. I mean, you need a character that's that complex in order to sustain your own creative juices and keep propelling you forward.
And we're back now with SELA WARD. Are you comfortable with being cast in, not exclusively, but often in roles of the classy, sexy woman? You know, the sexy woman in the business suit, the smart, sexy woman. Sort of the sexy woman who takes off the glasses, kind of, in in the old cliche, and the bun and the hair comes down, and look out.
Oh yeah, I love that. How great! I mean, listen, if I could be cast like that forever, it'd be wonderful. You have it all. You get to be smart, you get to be sexy, competent, aggressive. That's great.
That's what the character in Nothing in Common was like.
Yeah.
She had Tom Hanks pretty well overmatched.
Yeah, she did, didn't she? Fun to play.
You never got to play a scene with Gleason, though, right?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. I was around him a little bit, obviously. I mean, working on the same film, and he was so great. That's one thing I really regret, that I didn't have the chance to work with him.
What was he like?
To have a scene with him.
What was he like just around the set?
Well, you know, Bob, at that time, he was very ill, and unbeknownst to us, but he was tired, and probably, I'm sure, not the true Jackie Gleason, you know, in terms of his personality and energy. So he was kind of quiet and kept to himself.
This is early in your career. Tom
yeah.
Hanks is a rising star. Jackie Gleason is a certified legend.
Yeah.
How much anxiety did you feel walking onto that set?
A lot. Because it was the first, I had done Rustler's Rhapsody before that, and my role in The Man Who Loved Women was a very tiny thing, which was basically, you know, for the most part, my first job. And it was really intimidating, I have to say, to be working with Tom, who I think is so brilliant in terms of comedy. And to be on the set and to be doing a big picture, you know. It was intimidating. I had to, the first day working, I was shaking, I know, the whole time.
What was the turning point? When did you get comfortable?
Probably after about the first week, like you do on any show, really. It takes about a week to get comfortable and get to know all the people involved and to feel at ease and at home. You know, the first, I think probably when I did The Man Who Loved Women, I had just come out to California, and I was so naive at the time. I was in New York, and I had done two days on One Life to Live, playing Nurse Bunny Cahill. Tells you a lot about this character.
It's a role I'll never forget.
Yeah, it was. All I did was talk about food. This character would come on and go, Dr. Jones, I have some Chinese food. Would you like some? And, you know, it was the most inane dialogue. I thought I could never do this. I'd just come out of acting class. I'm going to get around to, there's a point to this. Acting class in New York, and it was my first job, and I thought, and here was like assembly line production with daytime television. The director's up in a booth somewhere. You never see him. They do your scene, and bam, they roll over and do the next setup, you know, and you're sort of left there. Oh, excuse me, I'd like to do that again. And it's you know, there's
it's good
no
enough, kid. Forget about it. You were great. Sit down.
Exactly. I thought I could never do this. I was offered a regular role, not on that show, but another one. I thought, nah, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go to California and really give it a shot. So I packed my bags and checked into a hotel out here. And I had an agent's name that is my agent today, oddly enough, and I met a couple of them, and he signed me on, and I met, but before that, I went and I met someone that was a manager. Someone said, I don't know if you want one. I didn't even know what a manager did, but I went into this woman's office, and she says, it was an introductory meeting. She says, I know a part that hasn't been cast in a film, picks up the phone, calls Blake Edwards' office, and they said, bring her down. I go down and I read for him for this role, and he goes, okay, you got the part. And I'd been out here for 2 weeks. I thought, oh my God, you know, this is amazing, and I've got to have this woman, and she must be a terrific manager, and so on and so forth. And I go, and the first day of working, I have never met Burt Reynolds, and I'm introduced to him right before we're getting ready to do the scene. And all I could remember in my head, because I am so nervous, I mean, I think my legs are going to give out from under me any moment. And my acting teacher in New York said, SELA, remember vocal commitment, because if I get timid, you know, my voice will get really quiet. And so I'm going, okay, remember SELA, vocal commitment. And I'm standing there, and Blake Edwards says, okay, let's run through the scene, and just run it. And I went, okay. And Burt has the first line, and I have the second line of dialogue, and I go, so you must be David Fowler. You know, and just like Burt jumped and looked behind him like, who the hell was I talking to 10 feet away? I wanted to crawl underneath the rug in front of me. I've never been more embarrassed in my life.
You're David Fowler, aren't you?
Yes.
I love your work.
Thank you.
There you go, Miss Winbury. Merry Christmas. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Can I help you carry those, Mrs. Winbury?
Yes, you may. And it's Janet.
It was a great experience, but terrifying, absolutely terrifying.
It's interesting because on a couple of occasions you've admitted to feeling a lot of anxiety, maybe even more than the normal anxiety that someone feels in a situation. And even if I may say it, when we sat down here to tape this little bit of business, you said, you know, I'm not 100% comfortable, a little nervous about it, and yet every character you play is extremely self-confident.
That's true.
Somewhat calculating, overmatching in many cases the man that she's playing opposite, sexy but smart, in control of the situation, not going to take any guff from anybody.
But see, there's that side of me, too. There is. It's like, you know, I'm this wonderful little package of everything. Isn't that great? I get to be terrified on the one hand, and then I can walk in and be completely confident and in charge and, you know, very focused and driven and ambitious. But yeah, there's this little girl inside that, you know, whose knees shake and is terrified sometimes.
From Mississippi, right?
I'm from Mississippi.
Now, no one would think that. Hearing
This
you
is true.
sitting here talking with me, no one would think that.
You know why? Because when I went to New York, I was working for an audiovisual production company. I was starving. So someone said, you should start modeling. And I said, well, how much do you make? You know, and they told me, I went, oh my God, where do I go? Because I was making like $6.50 an hour or something. And at that time, models made, I guess, $100 an hour, something. I thought, oh, God, this is you know, a lifesaver. So I went and met Wilhelmina and signed on with Wilhelmina Models. But the first job I did was a television commercial and had 30 seconds of copy. And it was when Screen Actors Guild was on strike, actually. And they were desperately looking for people to do this who weren't in the union, and I wasn't. I'd just gotten to New York. And I go in there and they go, oh my God, she's got great eyelashes. It was for Maybelline mascara or something. And we're going to use her, but God, send this girl to voice lessons. So I must have gone to 18, 20 voice lessons to get rid of this southern sort of twang and hi, little nasal, hi, how y'all doing?
And did you really have it?
I did, yeah, I did. And after those 18 voice lessons, I really lost it. I never had to work very hard at it. I guess being in New York and not having it reinforced and having somewhat of a good ear.
What's the dumbest commercial you had to do, just to eat?
Probably Weight Watchers Southern Fried Chicken. That was probably the dumbest commercial I did. No offense to Weight Watchers, it's a great product, but just the whole thing and trying to, you know, they said to me, SELA, we need a Southern accent, and I went, oh sure, no problem. And I stood up there and because I'd fought so hard to get rid of it, I couldn't remember how it went, except cliches, like the flow in the door, or everything's right nice, you know, one of those cliches. And it was very funny. I had to call my mother and talk to her on the phone for about 20 minutes to fall back in that whole rhythm of speech.
I do declare.
Southern fried chicken on a diet? Weight Watchers, you're absolutely amazing.
But it was okay. It was okay. Not the real thing, though.
Did I hear somewhere that you came at least reasonably close to being a sports announcer for a while?
I did. Who knows? We could have been working together. I was at sort of close. I was at the University of Alabama, and I was a cheerleader. And this is when Bear Bryant was still alive and in his heyday. So they were always televising the games, and ABC was always televising our college games. And Jim Lampley was working on the sideline as a color commentator, desperately looking for someone to replace him because he wanted to move into play-by-play, whatever. And they were thinking about a college-age female. And he said, well, who, you know, talking to all the cheerleaders who are in the School of Communications. And I went, well, oh, I am, you know. I was in advertising, and he went, of course, broadcasting.
And you know, Jim, this is the accepted way of finding young journalistic talent. My hat is off to my colleague, Jim Lampley.
That's great. Anyway, so Jim came by, and I said, yeah, I sent him my resume. They send down this guy from New York to audition me and put me on tape. And it was during football season. Love football, passed this with flying colors. They said, okay, send this guy back down, and this time don't help her at all, okay? And it was basketball season. I do not like basketball. I don't know. I can't tell you which one is a forward or a guard. I know nothing about it. I am sitting up there with a legal pad. He says, now look, I can't help you, okay? I said, fine. I'm watching the game. It means nothing to me. I'm supposed to recap the game at the end on camera, right? And I'm supposed to interview the star player. And I'm watching the cheerleaders over there thinking, God, we look really silly in that routine. And he's looking down, and I have nothing written on my papers halfway through the game. He goes, I can't help you, but you know, you can glance at my notes over here if you'd like, please. I said, okay. And then at the end, he has to feed me everything. He really does. I set back women in sportscasting, I know, 10 years. They did away with the whole idea.
Do you still have the tape somewhere?
I don't. I wish I did.
SELA WARD can be seen these days, Saturday nights, 10 o'clock Eastern Time on NBC in the show Sisters. Now, a half hour's over. Painless. Nice and easy.
That was fun.
Thank you for coming by.
Thank you, Bob.
We're gone. See you later.
Thanks for watching Cleveland Live Music. It's awfully bright out here. I'd click on another one of my videos. Quit looking into the sun. Your mother told you not to do that. Please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel more, there's GoFundMe and Patreon information in the video descriptions. Ooh, ooh!